So you want to find your home church. Maybe you're not sure if you're in the right place. Maybe you just moved to a new city. Maybe your pastor left and things just aren't the same. Maybe your denomination is making some changes that are surprising to say the least. Maybe finding church community feels a bit like a social club that you just can't break into. Maybe you love your pastor, but your husband says, this is a no-go for me. Maybe you appreciate the church, but the opportunities for families to plug in feel sparse. So if you feel homeless and want to plug in, but aren't sure how to find a place that's the best fit for you, or how to even figure that out, you are in the right place today. This is a topic that matters. God's word shares so much about gathering together. Check out Acts or 1 Corinthians if you want a place to start to go deeper. The church body, it's precious to Jesus, and it's a privilege, an honor, a joy to be a part of. So let's cover a few thoughts and questions as you seek to find your home church. First, what are your core values? What's especially important spiritually right now? And consider, how does the church you're considering exemplify this? So let me talk through a few instances for you. First is preaching God's word. This ultimately, I might encourage as the most important factor. You're going to want to be at a church that is biblically based. Another consideration is worship experience. That's important to a lot of people. A lot of people will encounter God or have challenges with the worship experience. Do you connect with something traditional, contemporary? What's a fit? What makes sense? Community. What are the opportunities to plug in? What does that look like? What's happening? How often is that happening? Are there young families, singles in their 30s? Are there ways to be poured into? I'd encourage you to look at children's ministry too. Someone had a really wise mentor had shared with us that you want to look at a church with a vibrant children's ministry because that's a sign that the church is growing. That's a good and healthy thing. Elders. Check out who is involved, who helps to lead and support the church, support the pastor in making decisions, making sure there's a structure to do that. Perhaps meeting with some of the elders and seeing what they look like, because they're a great example of how the church ministers and pours into and leads its people. What are their values and priorities? What are the opportunities to study God's word? What small groups exist? What does that look like? How active are they? How often are they? And of course, service. How does your church plug into the community? How do they give back, both with time and finances? This is another area that can be really important to check out too. So, there are so many, but off the top of my head, these are some different areas to think through, to consider what really feels like a need that is important in this season of life, and most importantly, ensuring that this church is preaching God's word. All right, so some practical tips as you seek your church home and you try and figure it out, because I'll use the word production. It can take time, it takes effort, it takes energy, and it's worth every bit of it. All right, so as you're going to visit, practical tip: don't sit in the back. Be immersed, be engaged, be involved, physically be in it too. So instead of being maybe a bit removed, watching from afar, sit in the middle, sit in the front, take it all in, be there. Something else that I like to do even before visiting to get a sense of, does this resonate? Is this it? The way that they preach God's word, their style, is to watch online. I love watching online a time or two and getting the sense if it's a fit, and then finding the top handful that really seem to connect, and then going there in person. So speaking of visiting in person, I would encourage you to visit a handful of times. Yeah, sometimes I get that, I understand. But for those that you're like, it was Go back a few times. I remember as we were at one point in the church search process, we've experienced quite a few different church experiences and denominations over the past 10 years. Let me say that. But they had said they encourage you to go 5 times to get the sense of what life was like, what worship was like, what community was like, what learning about Jesus was like there. And I thought that was great. What would it look like to go back again and again and again to really get the sense of a place? All right, next, someone else that I had chatted with as they were figuring out their church journey and where God was calling them had made a commitment to kind of like take that 5 times even further. And they said, because it's so easy, you guys, especially in the world we live in, to be like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or to just dip your toe. And they said, we're going to go all in and just immerse for 6 months. We're not going to be visiting other churches. We're not going to be entertaining thoughts and questions and spinning in our mind. We're going to go all in where we're at for half of a year. And so maybe that's something for you to try out too and see what happens with that. I'd encourage you to participate in a study too. Maybe this would make some of you uncomfortable, but like churches, what I've experienced, and I've experienced a lot, they are welcoming, they are warm, they love you, they want you there. They do, they deeply care. And so where we're at right now, before I joined, I participated in a small group. Some people would say, oh, how could you, what? I don't know that I could do that if I wasn't a member there. But it's possible. It's a way to really know who the people are, know what they teach, experience the church. And really, that was what the door that led me in, had me fall in love with the church and the people in it. Next, invite people over for dinner. You want to connect outside the building because that is genuinely what a church is. Go deeper, have conversation, get to know people in another level, in another environment. And there's something about creating roots that happens when you try that out. I get it. The church search is very emotional. It requires investment. It requires openness, and it requires vulnerability. It does. And it is worth it. The local church is beautiful. It is one of the biggest blessings that I've experienced in my life, in my personal walk, in friendships, in my marriage. It is so beautiful, and Jesus is for it. It has loved me, it has challenged me, it's encouraged me. I'll say not every church is meant for everyone, and that's okay. But everyone is meant for church. Pray that the Lord will lead you. Pray that He will make it clear where you are supposed to be. Nothing's forever. Remember that perfection doesn't exist. It doesn't. Seek out what matters most in the season. Start there. There's not a right or wrong decision here. It's about making a decision and making that decision work. And it's about remembering that your relationship, this is big, you guys. Listen in on this one. And this is almost like a revelation as we've been through some church growth and challenges and changes. That really what we've been open up to is that church cannot and it should not replace your personal relationship with Jesus. Okay? It shouldn't. That's the most important. And this is a way to support and amplify that and plug in and serve and love well. But it's not a substitute for. So share this with a spouse or a friend, okay, who maybe is in their search for a church. I really, truly hope there was a gem that spoke to you or for you to support someone else in this episode, because this is life-changing. This is transformational when you get plugged in with a local church community. If you're watching on YouTube, comment. What else would you add is important, right? Like, let's have conversation about this, right? This is my personal experience. Certainly do not know it all. Sharing what has been helpful and supportive as we have found our home churches over the years, and offering this to you because it's so important and it matters. And I want you to find your place to plug into too. So if you want specific tips as you grow in God, I would invite you to follow along. So thankful to have you here, and I'll see you back next time.